might have a list of controversies several miles long, but there is no denying just how important Hulk Hogan has been to the wrestling business over the years. Either as a real American or the villainous leader of the New World Order, Hogan has been a megastar everywhere he's gone, and his popularity and influence have both boosted and sank promotions in equal measure. During his time in the ring, Hogan won 12 different world championships across WWE and WCW. But which of them were the best, and which of them deserve to be choked out by my 24-inch pythons? Say your prayers, eat your vitamins, and join me, Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic Wrestling, because this is every Hulk Hogan World Championship reign ranked from worst to best. Join us, brother! Number 12, the WWF Championship from December 3rd to December 4th, 1991. Unlike many of his fellow multi-time world champions, the Hulkster never had a title reign begin and end on the same night. He did, however, have one that started on one night and ended the next, which is also pretty embarrassing. Though maybe not for the man behind Pastamania. At Survivor Series 1991, Hogan lost his WWF Championship to The Undertaker, giving the dead man his first run with the top prize. Unfortunately for Mean Mark, he would lose the title back to Hogan 6 days later. Remember this Tuesday in Texas? That time WWE tried and failed to make Tuesday a pay-per-view day for the first time? Good times. Both the Survivor Series contest and its rematch suffered from a metric boatload of interference, prompting WWF president and all-round gangster Jack Tunney to declare the title vacant 24 hours after Hogan's victory. This did pave way for the exceptional 1992 Royal Rumble, but we couldn't really justify putting this reign anywhere but last. Number 11, the WCW Championship from January 4th to March 14th, 1999. The reason why this entry is so low can be summed up in 3 words. Finger poke of doom. Wait, is finger poke all one word? Is it even a word at all? Oh, who cares? The January 4th, 1999 edition of WCW Nitro was one of the most pivotal moments in the Monday Night War saga. Hogan, who was the leader of the NWO Hollywood faction, was challenging the NWO Wolfpack's Kevin Nash for his WCW title. Shortly after the bell rang, Hogan jabbed Nash in the chest with his finger, sending the giant flailing to the mat. This allowed Mr. Nanny to cover Big Sexy to win back the title, reuniting the two sub-factions in the process. This ridiculous angle, combined with Mick Foley winning the WWF title on the other channel, really helped turn the tide in favor of Vince McMahon. The fact that this title reign began in this fashion, combined with its pretty unimpressive but nice 69-day length, is what condemns it to this position. Number 10, the WWF Championship from April 4th to June 13th, 1993. Oh god, WrestleMania 9. Again. After that evil Japanese but not really Japanese man, Yokozuna, beat Bret Hart for the WWF title in the night's main event, the Hitman's good friend Hulk Hogan ran down to check on his buddy. Yoko's manager, Mr. Fuji, threw out a challenge to Hogan, which he selflessly accepted. He then effortlessly beat his super heavyweight foe to win his 5th world title and close out WrestleMania in the worst possible way. This could have all been forgiven had the new champion gone through with the idea of putting Bret over at a later date, but come on, that was never gonna happen. Instead, Hogan held on to the gold for 2 arbitrary months before dropping it back to Yokozuna. So the whole Mania 9 ending was essentially pointless then. Good. The only reason this isn't lower on the list is because it didn't help kill an entire company, but rest assured, this was pretty awful. Number 9, the WWF Championship from April 21st to May 19th, 2002. At WrestleMania 18, Triple H completed his redemption arc and defeated Chris Jericho to become the new undisputed champion. But what should have been the game's big moment was massively overshadowed by a match earlier in the night, Hulk Hogan's big Mania comeback against The Rock. 1 month later, middle-aged Terrible Terry would ruin Big Paul's evening once again. Off the back of his monumental reception against the Great One, Hogan was immediately turned babyface and pushed to the moon. Almost a decade after his last world title reign in the company, he defeated Triple H at Backlash to become a 6-time champ. Not even WWE were mad enough to keep the belt on Hogan for longer than a month, as he lost the title to Undertaker shortly after in one of the worst world championship matches of all time. Seriously, my nan could and has taken a better chokeslam than that. Despite being a relatively harmless nostalgia run, this reign reminded all of us that no matter his age, Hogan was always gonna Hogan. Number 8, the WCW Championship from July 12th to September 12th, 1999. I could tell you at least one notable event from most of the reigns on this list just by looking at the dates, but I'll be damned if I can tell you anything off the top of my head that happened during this one. Hogan's final stint with the WCW title began on Nitro when he beat Randy Savage for the belt. He held the gold for 62 days, defended it against Kevin Nash at Road Wild, and then lost it to Sting at Fall Brawl. That was just about it. The only noteworthy thing that happened in those 2 months was Hogan denouncing the black and white in favour of his old red and yellow attire. However, when you consider this had almost no bearing on his character and was reversed within a year, that doesn't really help this reign's case. It wasn't bad, it wasn't good, it was just sort of there. Hey, what else can we say? It was WCW in the summer of 1999 and people within the company were barely paying any attention, never mind the fans. Number 7, the WCW Championship from August 9th to December 28th, 1997. On the August 4th, 1997 edition of Nitro, Lex Luger finally ended Hollywood Hulk Hogan's year of tyranny as WCW champion in one of the best feel-good moments in the company's history. So, naturally, he lost the belt back to the NWO leader 5 days later. Why are we not allowed nice things? Anyway, this began another 141 days of the Hulkster on top before his title reign came to an end at... oh no, not Starrcade 97. What should have been the biggest match in WCW history between Hollywood Hogan and Sting quickly became one of the most confusing shambles to ever take place in a wrestling ring. If you want to know exactly what happened here, we've covered it so many times before, one more might kill us. All you need to know is that WCW ballsed up one of their most important matches ever, and this whole title reign gets dragged down as a result. Number 6, the WWF Championship from March 24th to November 27th, 1991. At WrestleMania 7, his muscularness fought for the honor of every single American when he challenged evil Iraqi sympathizer Sergeant Slaughter for the WWF title. After the Sarge turned his back on the US military, which it turns out he never actually served in anyway, Hogan stepped up to the plate to win back the main prize for Old Glory, Buffalo, cheese in a can, and everything else that defines the good old US of A. He would keep hold of his title for most of the rest of the year, appearing once more on pay-per-view alongside the Ultimate Warrior to fight Slaughter and his cronies at SummerSlam. Then came Survivor Series and the title loss to The Undertaker we mentioned earlier. You can thank Ric Flair and his chair for that one. A nice long reign with some memorable moments. This one wasn't exactly a thriller minute, but it was perfectly acceptable and probably generated another 2 or 3 million in merch money, which, let's face it, is what's really important here. Number 5, the WCW Championship from April 20th to July 6th, 1998. The way in which Hogan won his 4th WCW title was fairly unremarkable, beating Randy Savage on Nitro in April of 1998. Bloody hell, he really had it in for the Macho Man, didn't he? The reason why this reign is so high up in this list is because of how Hogan surrendered the gold later that year. The July 6th, 1998 episode of Nitro from that year was a truly special night. Not only did it take place in Atlanta's Georgia Dome in front of 40,000 fans, but this was when Hogan dropped the belt to the fastest rising star in the business, Bill Goldberg. The thunderous response to Hogan eating a jackhammer and pinfall might just be the biggest pop in WCW history. This electric reception is enough to push the title reign to the number 5 spot, as Hogan was instrumental in cementing Goldberg as a megastar. Now, let's just skip over the method in which his buddy Kevin Nash unceremoniously beat him for the belt later that year. Number 4, the WCW Championship from July 17th, 1994 to October 29th, 1995. At Bash at the Beach 1994, just 1 month after officially signing with the promotion, Hulk Hogan defeated Ric Flair to win his first WCW World Heavyweight Championship. What followed was 469 days of Hogan on top, the longest single reign in the history of the title. That is an awful, awful long time, and the reign was a mixed bag to say the least. This was the reign in which Hogan defended the title against the Butcher at Starrcade, aka his old pal Brutus Beefcake, in search of a payday. It also encompassed his pathetic feud with the Three Faces of Fear, later dubbed the Dungeon of Doom. And it's also the reign that ended when the Giant and the Yeti got together to hump Hogan into submission at Halloween Havoc 95. So, whilst it's important to recognise the historical nature of this reign, it's also important to recognise that WCW fans had to sit through over a year's worth of rubbish until the Hulkamania well was dry. Number 3, the WWF Championship from April 2nd, 1990 to April 1st, 1991. Hogan missed out on being champion for exactly 1 year by a single day. If I were him, that would drive me mental. Hogan's second run with the WWF title was bookended by 2 classic WrestleMania main events. He won the title off Randy Savage at WrestleMania 5 after the excellent slow burn storyline of the Mega Powers imploding. The following year, he dropped the gold to the Ultimate Warrior at Mania 6, kickstarting his time as a top player. The Immortal One also won the Royal Rumble during this reign and closed out SummerSlam 89 against the Macho Man and his no-rolls-barred co-star Zeus. Yes, he wrestled a fictional movie villain, and what? Hogan was still popular enough to sustain a long title reign, and WWF's business model meant that he wasn't overexposed on top. This is easily one of his better world title runs, even if it wasn't quite as neatly bookended as my OCD ass would have liked. Number 2, the WCW Championship from August 10th, 1996 to August 4th, 1997. 1 month after turning heel in one of the most important wrestling moments of all time, Hogan defeated the Giant at Hog Wild to win his first World Championship as a baddie. For the next 12 months, Hogan ruled the roost. The NWO's power and popularity grew, as did their leader's mean streak, as he utilised more and more nefarious means to protect his beloved championship. This reign wasn't perfect by any means. This was the one where Roddy Piper beat Hogan clean but forgot to make the match for the title, the silly skirt-wearing bastard. But it was easily one of the best reigns in the company's history. It's a reign that launched the NWO into the stratosphere, that reinvigorated Hogan's character, and that really put Vince McMahon's organization on the ropes, so to speak. The irony being that, without the Hulkster himself, WWF may not have been in business in the first place. Case in point, number 1, the WWF Championship from January 23rd, 1984 to February 5th, 1988. Yes, after all that, we have settled on Hogan's very first WWF Championship reign as his best. Ain't we a bunch of cheeky stinkers? In January of 1984, shortly after getting poached from the AWA, Hogan defeated the Iron Sheik to win the WWF title in Madison Square Garden. He would then hold on to it for a whopping 1,474 days, which is currently the 3rd longest reign in the belt's history. During this time, Hogan became a national celebrity, the most famous wrestler of all time up to that point, and maybe still to this day. This popularity gave Vince McMahon the confidence to put on the very first WrestleMania, which Hogan main evented as champ. He feuded with Roddy Piper, Paul Orndorff, Andre the Giant, and countless others, doing monster business before finally dropping the belt to the enormous Frenchman in the most viewed wrestling match of all time in 1988. Simply put, this is one of the most important championship reigns in the history of wrestling, and there's not much you can do about that, brother!